Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
And good morning. Welcome to yet another edition of the Northland Sports Page. It's Brian Prudhomme. It's Dave Cook. It is Saturday. Yes, I had to remind myself that it is Saturday because I will tell you that on Thanksgiving Day, it felt like a Saturday. I didn't have to go to work and I was spending time with family, and I referred to Sunday as tomorrow many times. Now I can do that. Happy Saturday. Good morning, Dave Cook.
Well, that's absolutely true because we went down to the cities on Wednesday night like we would any Friday, right? And so, yes, Thanksgiving, well, not doing a whole lot, felt exactly like a Saturday.
Absolutely, it did. Very thankful to have the extra time off, though. A little long weekend. Very thankful for so many things. I certainly hope that people don't stop giving thanks after Thanksgiving. We need to remember to do it more often. We're going to do that today in a sports context today, too.
Hey, one of the things that I do regularly, and you've been a recipient of it, is to write a gratitude letter. You know, say thanks to people that you know, because often during the year, I'm not going to say you take them for granted, but you kind of take people for granted.
You do.
And it's worthwhile putting together an email or a text or whatever and just acknowledging them, right? Just saying, I see what you do. I don't always have the time to say thank you or whatnot.
But I will tell you this. When you send it to me, you could say, I see what you do. Do you know why most of our listeners couldn't?
Yes, because faces for radios.
Well, that too. I was hoping for radio is not a visual medium, but you were very close. Very close. I tried to give you the layup, and you are bad from in close, apparently.
You tried to give me the layup, and I took the little bunny from about 6 feet.
Right. You Timberwolves did at least last night. They've been phenomenal until last night. Tough loss at home to Sacramento. What do you think of the in-season tournament in terms of what it does to the courts? Because the Target Center with its periwinkle look last night, I didn't hate it, didn't love it. It was just weird.
There are some courts that it works for. Like, I kind of think OKC's is okay because it's so over the top garish.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, they're trying too hard. God bless the NBA for trying something. I mean, you got to give them all the credit in the world for that. I don't even know when it's a tournament game, when it's not. Like last night was a tournament game.
I was going to say I do, but that's because I'm nerdy enough to Google it to figure it out.
But you had to Google it. Or the
Score app does tell us sometimes.
It does. Yes.
Absolutely. So from the court to holding court, I was talking to you on the way here of how proud and thankful I was to be part of the community on Thursday.
Yes, let's talk about that for a second.
That deck Thanksgiving dinner that, my goodness, the crowds really show out for is an impressive event. I was part of it for the first time. I will be back. I was not partaking in the food per se. I was a greeter. I was the scarecrow. I was pointing every which direction of where people could go, and I really enjoyed it.
You were flexing your muscles for your future career as a Walmart employee.
Nobody was impressed with my flexing.
So anyways, the thing about the event from our conversation is that the community is aware of it. I don't think they understand it. Like, someday we need to get Barbara from the College of St. Scholastica to come down because they're a big sponsor of it and just talk to us about what it means for St. Scholastica to be involved in it.
I can only imagine how much time it takes to prepare for that day because all I saw was the day. And I was only there from 12 to 3. And most people were there at 6:30 in the morning who had been part of, the roots of the idea. Super impressive. And, we talk about giving thanks. Every patron there was almost overly thankful. I was impressed by that too.
Yeah, and that's the thing, so many of us, and I'll put myself in this pile because really you and I just talked about it today, so I'm more aware of it than ever. We talk about, being part of the community and making our community better and so on and so forth. Well, this is one of those events that does that. And so more of us, and me included, more of us need to get involved with this to make our community better.
Absolutely. And of course, the radio guys and us said, it would be really fun to do a Northland Sports Page on Thanksgiving morning.
An extended version.
I don't know if we would have the same brevity of tradition as, say, the Macy's Parade, but if Northland Sports Page on Thursday morning of Thanksgiving became a thing, I would be happy to be part of it.
Brian, and this float brought to you by Hyundai. Kohler Hyundai brings you this float.
Can you imagine you and I being masters of ceremonies of a parade?
No.
Yeah, I can't either.
It would be something, wouldn't it?
We would be mocking people's attempt to princess wave.
And
it's
Brian,
elbow, wrist, isn't it?
And Brian, this band is wearing blue. I can tell that because I see it. And you'd be like, yes, it's Hibbing, Dave. And that's Hibbing's band.
Or I would be like, Dave, we're on the radio. You better describe the colors. Nobody else can see it. Painting a picture, that's the idea behind radio. We're going to do that with high school hockey today. It's our first play-by-play of the year.
And it's at the right location, right? So
we
get to go.
It's at our favorite spot to do a game.
Yep, we get to go to Proctor today, start the season off there. John's going to sample some hot dogs as he's wont to do.
Yes,
and
he wants to do.
Yes.
He talks about it weeks in advance.
And so we get to talk about a team and see a team that's starting to get ready to make a move.
They put up 9 goals last night. They scored 9 times.
Well, and that's something I want to talk to you about because AJ Riles committed this week to Lindenwood,
yes.
And Lindenwood lost 9-3 as well. It seems to me that Lindenwood needs a goaltender. AJ's going to the right spot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. So high school hockey on the boys' side is here. Marshall opened yesterday, got a victory. Duluth East was beaten in overtime. Proctor left no suspense to their game. 9-0 sounds like a pretty good domination.
Yeah, when you roll, right? You take your wins when you can, and they can put that one up on the mantle.
Absolutely. So not to have the pregame show now, but they're high school age kids.
Yeah,
it's a holiday weekend. Do you make anything of a back-to-back? Are we going to see a fatigued Rails team? I doubt it.
Well, I doubt it too, except for the fact they absolutely blew a team out, which is not something that they've done a lot of. So there's probably going to be, they're high school kids. There's probably going to be a little bit of, again, flexing because we did that. And today they're running into a different team.
Rochester Lourdes will be the opponent today. That's 2:00 puck drop. And again, we'll have it right here on this station, first of the year. The 3-headed monster that is Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook, and the hot dog guy, John Carlson.
The hot dog guy.
But he's not a hot dog when it comes to hockey. He loves being part of it.
I think we should do what we were talking about right before the show started. If there's somebody that wants to sponsor the hot dog talk, we will have hot dog talk in between the first and second period.
Well, there you go. That sounds like an intermission segment. It's time for hot dog talk with John Carlson.
We need a sponsor to do it.
So we're having an on-air production meeting. Needing sponsors? We've got them here on the Northland Sports Page.
Well, I think we should spend a little time on our sponsors
to
start. All right.
'Tis the holiday season.
So Brian, let me know about the story that you again told me in the car. I think we should start with Avenue 45 because Avenue 45 is one of those places that on the East End it's just something that everybody does. And tell me about your experience the other day.
Well, I got my hair cut on Tuesday afternoon, and I've been getting my hair cut at Avenue 45 for, I want to say 10 years, probably more. Probably closer to 15. And I don't get very many compliments on my appearance very often for a multitude of reasons, and I agree with most of them. But this Thanksgiving weekend, I got more and more compliments on my hair because Carrie Erickson does a tremendous job. I don't have a lot of hair left, but if she can make me look good, I guarantee you she can make all of you look good. I feel like Vidal Sassoon. If you don't look good, we don't look good. But Avenue 45, heck of a job once again.
Absolutely. Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Pier B Resort. No, if you want to look at Bentleyville and you don't want to fight the crowds and you don't want to wander through it, which is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. Wait a better place than Pier B?
What parallel universe am I in? Did you just say going through the crowds is a lot of fun? Don't get me wrong. That is the opposite of what I would hear you say.
But this is
Bentleyville is fun,
right?
Yes.
This isn't just another sporting event.
I'm going tomorrow hoping to time it perfectly where there's maybe not a monstrosity of people, but the Vikings don't play tomorrow. I think a lot of people might have that idea.
But if you just love the lights, is there a better spot than Pier B?
No.
There just really isn't. You can almost live in the moment while you're not having to battle the crowds. Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai. Comfort Systems. Okay. Comfort Systems. We used Comfort Systems this morning. We have, and I played the thing for you. Our furnace sounds like a car without a starter.
Before Dave goes any further, the first thing he said, sorry I'm early, but I had to get out of the house. We have a furnace situation. And he plays me the video off of his phone. And I'll tell you, when he first showed me the video, until I really looked at it and I just heard the audio, I thought he was playing the skull chant because whatever your furnace was doing didn't sound quite the right rhythm to be heating your house.
Well, and I don't wake up, right? And that thing made me jump out of bed at about 5 a.m. And so what did we do? We called Comfort Systems, and they, it was too early for them to be wide open, but we got an emergency guy. We wanted to play the sound from him. He's like, hey, I'm just the dispatcher. I don't know anything about furnaces. But he got us to a furnace guy, and my expectation is the furnace guy is probably at our house right now. And that's the gold that Comfort Systems is that You're part of the city. You can just make a phone call and stuff happens.
Well, you know what else you could have done? You could have called Kraus Heating and Cooling as well.
Right.
Because my furnace is a Kraus product.
But I don't think you call Kraus in the middle of the night, right? You get your furnace from Kraus.
See, this is where we need better on-air production meetings. I was just trying to plug another one of our sponsors.
Well, absolutely, because if you're gonna get a furnace,
Yes.
why not go to Kraus and say, all right, listen, Dave's furnace is bugging out. We need a new one, right? Except we have this $1 million boiler that the people that own the house beforehand left. Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, Brian, another one of our great sponsors. OAR Holdings, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Sammy's Pizza, The Blackwoods Group. All right, Brian, I love their location on London Road. Been to the one in Proctor. Probably going to spend a little bit more time at the one in Proctor now talking to some of the folks at Proctor.
I was going to say, this afternoon we may be.
Two Harbors location. The location downtown here at Blackwater. And, of course, Tavern on the Hill, which is another one of my favorite haunts. But here's the thing they got going on right now. You can buy gift cards, right, for the holidays. What a great gift.
But if you're going to do them Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of this week because
if you buy 50, you get 20. And they're redeemable at every location.
Right.
So if you're a Blackwaters fan, but you have family members who are fans of the Tavern, well, buy them a gift card for Tavern and take the 20 for yourself so you can spend some time downtown.
Now, that's resourceful shopping.
That
I didn't
is.
think of that. But yes, bonus days at the Blackwoods locations for gift cards. And let's not forget, you were marveling at the delivery news that you received this morning as well.
Right. So many people use DoorDash. Dana always makes me go pick stuff up. Did you know, Brian, that you can get delivery for $6 at Tavern? So if you order something from Tavern, you can have it delivered to your door by somebody who works for Tavern for $6.
Now, you started that phrase with, did you know? The answer is yes.
I did not know that
You're
until
talking to
this
someone
morning.
who uses delivery quite a bit, and especially at those locations. So absolutely I did. Is that everybody? Because we can use a third hour just for our sponsors, but eventually we got to talk some sports today.
Yes, because we have to talk about Hoops Brewing. We're going to be talking to them in just a minute as well. But we're going to talk about the gift card sale he has and Arola Architecture Studio, who's our original, but Neighborhood, that app, somebody was looking for an architect, right? And then all these other, and I said, no, seriously, you need to check with Ryan Arola at Arola Architecture Studio because he's the guy that's lived here his whole life. He's the one that knows your location. He's the one that can come in and make a house a dream house.
Well, that's great that you found that on the Neighborhood, the Next Door app.
Yes, the one that everybody yells at each other.
I was going to say, it's nice to see somebody looking for recommendations or looking for legitimate help because I get alerts from that app all the time too. And they should just change the name of that app to What Are You Mad About Today?
Right.
Now, we could do that with a lot of social media outlets for sure. But the Next Door app, I feel like, is the winner or at least the clubhouse leader in that department. But thankful for all of those opportunities.
So much stuff this week for our sponsors.
Right. Thankful for our sponsors. Thankful for at least 2 hours on the radio. Again, with all the deals going, we could use 3. But what do you say we talk some sports?
Let's do that.
All right. So Minnesota sports, you and I are thankful for that because it's the livelihood of this show, livelihood of lots of conversations. But some would say it's difficult to be thankful for Minnesota sports because we don't win a lot. True. But we'll find stuff anyway.
Oh, 100%, because there's all kinds of things to be thankful for in our sports teams, even though sometimes they're frustrating. Who would you like to start with?
I'll let you guide the ship.
All right.
You be Will Steger. It's the winter season. You be Will Steger again today.
So the one that popped into my head, and I read a little bit about this on The Athletic the other day, but it's been painfully clear since the trade. I think we need to tie the Conleys together. Because Tim Conley traded for Mike Conley.
Yes.
And since
no relation, different spelling.
Since
Mike
Conley has been here as with the Timberwolves,
yeah,
they've been very, very good. Like we talk about it in different sports. You know what we really need is we need somebody to come and take these kids and lead. Well, guess what? They found the guy.
I was going to say, that's been Mike Conley.
And lead. And so I am really thankful that they made a trade that I wasn't particularly fond of when they made it. I'm like, really? You're bringing in a 35-year-old point guard?
I suppose, because he probably figured it was a rental.
Right. Well, a rental and a guy who's going to sit on the bench a lot. And he hasn't. Not at all. He's been fantastic. So I'm thankful for that trade.
Well, and how necessary has he turned out to be because depth at point guard is not something this team has.
Right.
Behind Mike Conley is...
Shake, and Shake hasn't done much.
Well, he's not much of a point guard. You can play him there. But who are we
Slow-mo
kidding?
plays point when he's out there, doesn't he?
Right, and when the first half of your nickname is slow and you're a point guard in today's NBA, that's not a great thing. Now, your method of ball can be effective at times, but I'm not real sure about that. That's a good one because I'll just piggyback off of it because what we're going to do is we're going to do current thankfuls and then we're going to do historical thankfuls as well because sometimes looking back is easier and better. Sometimes looking back is a nightmare. We'll see what we can come up with. But I just kind of big pictured it because I said for the Wolves, I'm just thankful right now for relevance.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about just the fact that they're one of the Western Conference's best, but they're not one of the worst. And that might be a losing mentality. That might be a low bar, but this is what, the 35th anniversary of the Timberwolves? How many of those 35 years have been, oh gosh, yeah, we have an NBA team, but don't tell anybody.
At least 30. But I want to say there was something that you did last week that I did a year ago, and I think it says something. The text was simply, these Timberwolves are fun.
Right.
And that makes a big deal. Historically, I'm going to say something that against what I said a week or two ago when we were talking about the Timberwolves and the things that we liked and didn't like. Then I said I thought they brought Mussey in too early because he made them somewhat relevant when in their first year when they needed to be brutal, right? But I'm going to say I'm thankful historically for Mussey because he was able to
I knew you were going to say that.
You did not.
Sure I did. You have concepts you're married to. So do I.
Because he filled the Metrodome, right? The Metrodome was full a lot, and they were...
Well, and think about what that means. The Metrodome being full is 50,000 people.
Yeah, and
they don't get that in 3 NBA games now.
And so much of that started with the fact that they had everybody's favorite coach. And so I think that, we talked about relevance.
Right.
They were relevant then because of the razzle-dazzle that Mussey brought.
I think there's plenty to that. I took the low-hanging fruit. Thank you for taking a shot on the high school kid. Because without Kevin Garnett, you want to talk relevance? This team is not only irrelevant, they're probably gone.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I mean, we've talked about the threats to leave and how realistic the New Orleans Timberwolves was supposed to be. And we can talk about Glenn Taylor saving the day, and that's accurate. We've done it. But without Kevin Garnett, this Timberwolves team has been, you said, 35 seasons, 30 of them being bad. Well, that's probably too many because Kevin Garnett played longer than 5 years here. But outside of the Garnett years, you've probably got the last 2, and that's it.
If we do this in 5 years, are we going to be thankful for Laurie and Rodriguez, or are we going to put them on the naughty list?
Boy, I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I was going to say, can we wait and see who Karl Anthony Towns ends up playing for? What happens to Anthony Edwards?
Yep.
What kind of draft capital does Utah end up getting from the Rudy Gobert trade?
How much money are they going to spend?
Because a lot of people are upset about the Gobert trade now because they think it's Herschel Walker-like. I understand that, but you can't be yet because Utah hasn't turned it into anything.
Well, and
if we falter and the Jazz are hoisting the O'Brien Trophy regularly, now you're going to have a different tenor.
Think about the only guy that's left. It's Kessler. Right
Kessler.
Now it's Gobert versus Kessler.
Right.
And Kessler was pretty good last year. He's just a guy.
Well, and if you think about it, that means the Timberwolves look fairly good for this trade because every piece that they gave the Jazz seemed to have gotten traded again.
Yeah.
So these were castaways. The Timberwolves were just the first to cast them away.
Yep. It's the draft picks.
And it seems odd when a team that's not very good is shedding themselves of NBA veterans.
Yeah, it's the draft picks that hurt, no doubt. But that's not how it seems we ever talk about this trade. It's look at all these guys we gave up. Yeah, all these guys aren't there except Kessler.
Well, and is the depth of the NBA draft fading? Because if you don't pick in the top 5, I haven't seen a lot of 6 through 10, much less 10 through 20, et cetera, that are super impactful. Now, somebody's going to call me out and go, what about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? Yeah, okay. But that's like saying 6th-round picks in the NFL aren't very good. And you go, Tom Brady. Okay, you got one. I got it.
I think it's because the NBA is set up so different. I think that the top 5 are the only ones that impact in their first year. Like you can coach up a guy who's a number 15 pick, and like the Vassell kid from San Antonio. His first couple years, he was at best okay. Now he's going to be, Tyrese Halliburton was traded because he was just okay, and now he is. He might be the starting point guard for the Eastern Conference in the All-Star game.
The problem is that was supposed to be the downfall of the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings look pretty good right now.
Yep.
The Timberwolves got served last night.
They did, absolutely.
All right, so 1 down, 3 to go. We're going to do this for the big 4 major men's teams. Where are we going from here?
Let's get the Wild out of the way.
That's a good point. So currently, this is a reach. What do you got for what are you thankful for right now? Are we thankful that there's only so many games left?
No, I am thankful for the deal that brought Brock Faber, and that is not a Gopher thing. It isn't. It is because they have one young defender who looks like he belongs in the NHL. Because everybody else right now is aging out, and Brodin looks like a shell. And when Middleton is your leading scorer 5-on-5, like, things are bad in the cupboard.
Right.
But the only guy who looks like he has a future is Faber, and they had to make a really difficult trade to secure him. And so I'm glad for that trade.
Okay, so for those of you keeping score at home, Dave Cook has brought up Bill Musselman and Brock Faber. This is not a best of the best show. We are live here on November 25th.
I promised that it wasn't because he was a Gopher.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad poll. I'm just giving you grief because the shoe fit very, very well. I'm thankful for, and you just said if we do this in 5 years, are we going to say the same thing? I hope that I can say this in 2 years, because right now it's difficult to be thankful for much. I'm thankful for Bill Guerin.
Yes.
Because the cupboard is not looking great. But the guy that seems to be able to look in the cupboard and find the ingredients to give you something is Bill Guerin. But he's got to prove it too, because we've got a short amount of time left with this salary cap hell that they're in. And we've all said, well, when this gets better financially, this team will get better. I don't know how many people are still hanging on to that, or how many people are at least skeptical going, okay, prove it. It feels like Bill Guerin's the guy that could prove it.
How many people, though, changed their attitude on Bill Guerin? Not completely, right? Nobody said, okay, he's lousy, with the re-signing of the 3 free agents.
But that's the thing, though, too. They extended a bunch of old guys, and that didn't make a ton of sense to me. 1-year extensions to get through 100%. The salary cap situation made a lot of sense, because Topher Davis said it a couple weeks ago. The Wild want to compete now, knowing they're rebuilding at the same time. So I understood part of that. The length of time they gave these players, you're going to have players pushing 40 or at 40 still on this team. Now, in Bill, we trust, and I wonder if it's going to be trade chip at some point and the finances work themselves out. But I'm thankful for him. I'm also thankful for him because I think it keeps the Wild relevant right now. I know this state loves the sport, and we'll bring it up later whether this fan base will ever truly check out if they continue to be lousy. But this state gravitates towards big names in the sport. Doesn't matter if they're on your team, on the opponent, in the front office. We've got Bill Guerin. Still sounds like a big deal.
Well, and I think historically, I'm gonna say that it was the GM that lasted like 6 months because he was an awful guy. But what was that guy's name?
Paul Fenton?
Yes. I'm going to say historically we can say...
I gave you 5 seconds to see if you'd get there this time.
Paul Fenton, because he made a couple of really what turned out to be excellent deals, even though when he made them, we kind of laughed because of the lizard stick, and Fiala was going to be a game breaker, and It was like, all right, so Fiala's played, he got a cup of coffee, and Zuccarello's hurt all the time. But you know who was right? He was.
Yeah.
Because Fiala
Paul
turned
Fenton was
into
a terrible person, and then we lived off some of his transactions for a few years.
100%. I mean, Zuccarello was turned into the reason that Kaprizov got so, almost said Kirilloff, Kaprizov got so good so fast. I mean, he's one of the biggest reasons. And then, Fiala was the guy for a couple of years. He was a game breaker. And so he helped turn the franchise a little bit and gave one to Bill Guerin that had some stars.
I agree with you. So historically, I tried to cheat and kind of pick 2. I did a Panera style. You picked 2. But I had them on the same team because in the early goings of an expansion team, whether you're good or not, you need something or somebody that fans can cling to of, well, I'm going to go watch them or I'm going to be interested in them because of X. For me, it's Jacques Lemaire. You don't get much better cup cred than that. And then Marian Gaborik, because a team needs a superstar right away. And he didn't come in as a superstar established somewhere, but he came in as the kid who had potential and kind of maximized it quickly. Now, I know, again, this state loves this sport, and I've joked that this sport can do no wrong, and that'll come up again today, I promise you. But to get interest right away, you needed something credible, and you got it. And he talked about it with Mike Conley. They've got kids. Somebody needs to come in and mix this together and see what we can get out of it. Jacques Lemaire was perfect for that.
Yeah, that's very true. He was also a little Musselman in that he made them relevant just on his strategies and how he played defense and stuff. So they've never been bad.
Well, and I'm proud of you for going off script and not mentioning Thomas Vanek once. I just assumed he'd work his way into the conversation.
Nice. So let's go baseball since the Vikings are playing.
Okay. And by the way, that means we're doing the Vikings last, because somebody who just heard that sentence and said, let's do baseball because the Vikings are playing, are going, is he a big North Branch fan? What is happening? He's doing baseball so we can do football last. Yes. I speak enough, Dave Cook.
Do the Twins.
All right, the Twins. What are you currently thankful for now?
I am currently thankful.
Which is from the Department of Redundancy Department. What are you currently thankful for now in this moment, as we speak?
I am thankful for Mr. Johnson, the draft guy for the Twins, because you know what? The only reason they're able to survive the injuries the last 2 years is because the farm system's been pretty darn good.
So this segment isn't going to be any fun because I'm thankful for the same thing.
Oh, shush. Then I'll start something else.
It's not the same guy, but it's the same concept. So we can just discuss this together. Because we all know that Pitchfork Nation got ready because the only thing you're reading about the Twins right now is cutting payroll. Sonny Gray is leaving, etc. Right. There's reasons behind it, but nobody wants to hear that. It's not cheap bleep Bally. It's cheap bleep Poleads. But they're going to survive this because of the kids that are there. Yeah. So I didn't go as individualistic as you did with Mr. Johnson, but it's the concept.
I just remember his first name.
And you're thankful it's Johnson for a last name. Yeah. For all we know, it's not. Nobody Google it. But at the same time, they're going to survive this because of the Julians, because of Royce Lewis, because of Brooks Lee. They're not going to add big names. They don't need to.
Right. And even Austin Martin, who can play defensive center field.
I hope.
But he's going to come in for no wage, right? And I think there's a better 50-50 chance that they trade Polanco, which means you get
or
Julian,
Kepler or both.
Or both.
Because you've got Matt Wallner in there somewhere.
For some reason, they love Kepler. And
the second half of the season is why. The first half of the season is why the fans feel the way they do.
We're going to start a line that was the Geno Smith line. Right. They were good 1 year, and so you paid them, and then they go back to being Geno Smith. So I'm expecting Max Kepler to be the guy in the last 5 years. But Max didn't even
do the full year this time. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll split my season in two, and Charles Dickens it for you, and you decide what you want. Best of times, worst of times.
But they've got enough kids coming up that their payroll can be handled a little bit, because they're going to have a whole lot of guys making minimums.
All right, so historically, you're thankful for what? This is interesting because we're baseball historians. You go back further than me simply because you're 11 years older than me, but what are you historically thankful for this team?
Historically, I am thankful for the fact they have always been able to generate hitting. They've always had a minor league system that generates people that can hit. What they've never been able to do is generate pitchers. But they've always been relevant because they can swing the bats.
Well, and they've decided to care about pitching now, too, because that's one I thought you were going to take. That, hey, going into this year, we don't have a rotation that's automatically going to stink.
Well, that's true, and it's also part of the first part of what I was saying, because Louis Varland's part of the thing now. Ober's part of the thing now. Simeons Richardson is probably going to be involved at some point, and,
right.
And those are all kids.
Also, Simeon Woods Richardson, but I got you.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes I can't see the forest through the trees, Brian.
That's all right. So historically, I took a low-hanging fruit, but I don't know how you take anything around it, because I'm just thankful for 1987 and 1991. I told somebody working a basketball game at East the other day who was a big Twins fan, but he's a lot younger than me and wasn't here in 87 and 91. And he said, I like to make fun of the White Sox, but I can't because they've got a World Series this decade, whatever. And that's not correct, but this century, I think, is probably what he said. And I said, yeah, but the Twins have two. And he goes, I didn't see him. And I went, oh, yeah, I forget now how old I am, that there are people that don't realize that happened. But the Minnesota Twins obviously won the World Series twice before I was 12. Yep. And I thought it was the easiest thing in the world to do. They won it when I was 8, and they won it again when I was 12. I thought this was just going to be like the Olympics. We were just going to pop up every 4 years. Well, they haven't done it since. But in the grand scheme of Minnesota sports, they've taught me that winning actually is possible, and it has happened here before. And whether it's fair or not, we talk about the unconditional love that the Wild get. I always, and I don't think I'm alone here, always put the Twins on a different pedestal because they've gotten it done before. So they can fail you, they can be cheap, they can make dumb decisions, and you go, well, their trophy case isn't empty. I'm good with it.
Yeah, and they're the other team that's been horrible and then pretty good, and so they end up with better players in the system because they're drafting third and they're not drafting 15th all the time.
Well, and they gave us reasons to name our dogs. They've had some impactful players.
Absolutely. So let's go on the Vikings. I know we don't have a ton of time.
I was going to say we're technically behind schedule already, so how fast can we whip through the Vikings? Well, that's because, our sponsors deserve their own segments now. There's a lot going on for the holidays.
Specifically today, absolutely. Right now, I am thankful for the head coach because I think the head coach is the glue that's keeping this conglomeration of stuff together.
All right, so I'll be different just to be different because I completely agree with you, but I'll stay on the staff. I'm grateful for the defensive coordinator because for the first time in forever, we don't wince when we don't have the ball.
Well, and you can use the sentence that has Shinola in it.
Yes.
Because he is making well, there's all kinds of sentences that mean he's got a lot of iffy players and he's turning it into something really nice.
Absolutely correct. Because the ultimate naysayers who even like Flores are saying, well, just imagine what this guy could do if they had real personnel. You're not wrong. But I'll tell you what, we may not have real personnel, but he's making them look that way.
We also may not have that defensive coordinator very long.
So Brian Flores, whatever it takes to get you to stay, let me know. Yeah, I'll do whatever I can.
Let's do that.
What about historically?
So I've been thinking about this a couple different ways. One is stability, and the other one is now this is because they haven't drafted a quarterback with a darn except for Dante, but the ability to locate quarterbacks who have just enough left to keep us.
I was going to say, are we thankful for the backup quarterback, whether it was Randall Cunningham, Jeff George, Josh Dobbs right now, Case Keenum?
How about Warren
Sam
Moon?
Bradford on an emergency moment?
Sam Bradford was one of them. Warren Moon.
Jim McMahon.
Yes. Those. Now, I'm not putting Donovan McNabb in there because he was a complete failure.
No.
But
he was Donovan McFlab by the time we got him.
We've always been able to find a quarterback with just enough juice left to give us a hope to win. Brett Favre, we've always been able to do that.
Don't you remember when we loved Todd Bouman?
I do remember when we loved Todd
About the only time it didn't work was when we tried to turn to a bunch of backup quarterbacks in the same season. We had success with Gus Frerotte behind T-Jack, but then there was the year where we went Bollinger, Kelly Holcomb, and whoever else, and it was just bad.
But we've always been, now granted there's times, but we've always had the ability to find a guy, right, and who can play at a high level, and that's just seems to be the Vikings' way because they can't draft him.
All right, so my answer might open Pandora's box or the chicken or the egg, because who makes the player? Does the quarterback make the wide receiver, or does the wide receiver make the quarterback? Because I'm thankful for the wide receiver position both during and before my lifetime. Because you think of Ahmad Rashad, you think of Sammy White, you think of Anthony Carter, you think of Chris Carter, you think of Randy Moss, you think of Stephon Diggs,
Percy.
You think of Adam Thielen, you think of Percy Harvin, and you think of Mr. Jefferson.
That's long stretch of
a litany
talent.
of being very, very blessed at the wide receiver position.
What is there? Maybe 2 or 3 years when we were struggling.
Right.
With just guys.
I mean, I'm trying to think of when your leading wide receiver was a no-name. There may have been a time where Bobby Wade led him.
Yep. And then there was.
Now, you can honestly say that Brett Favre probably made Sidney Rice.
Right.
But Percy was that good, like you said.
The year that they drafted Diggs, when they got the guy from Greg Jennings, I mean, he was just a guy.
Mike Wallace, that point. Who I'd rather have 60 minutes, Mike Wallace.
Yep. So
because he didn't play well for 60 minutes.
About that. That's about 5 years in the entire history of the Vikings that their wide receiver position has been iffy.
But did we do that
really
wrong?
Good.
Because nationally, this team is known for, that's the Purple People Eaters, and the Vikings have been a defensive stalwart team.
Wide receiver.
We didn't bring it up once. We brought up the quarterback, castaway, working out, and the wide receivers.
Yeah, I think that, honestly, until last year, we did kind of take the defense for granted because it's pretty much always been good.
It has been, except for the Ed Donatel era and the dismissal of the Mike Zimmer era. And the last couple of years there were a little weak.
And Les's last year was pretty tough.
Right. If you had anybody named Les, the Vikings did a lot less. Les Steckel, Leslie Frazier, rather forgettable eras.
Yep.
But we'll never forget the things that we're thankful for. One of them is also Dave Hoops. He's right around the corner. Stick around. We'll be right back. This is the Northland Sports Page.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/easy. Ramp.com/easy. RAMP.com/easy.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Seems like our next guest can never wait to get back on the road again either, because at the rate that he travels, he's on the road pretty constant. That is Dave Hoops. I don't even know if I should call him a guest. He's just a staple in what we do here on the Northland Sports Page. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook, Dave Hoops is coming up next. He's en route to Huntington Bank Stadium, big rivalry today. Gophers and Badgers, you've already said Gophers win today because that's what PJ does. Can be as down on him as you want, but he'll get that game done for you.
Yeah, and you remember when he got here, we were like, all they got to do is beat Wisconsin. Well, he's been pretty good at beating Wisconsin.
I was going to say, that message got received. It's everybody else we worry about.
Yeah, so let's take a second to acknowledge our sponsors again, Brian. Let's start with OAR Holdings. Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer. Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Sammy's Pizza. The Blackwoods Group, including their location at London Road, in Proctor, on Into Harbors, at Blackwater downtown, Tavern on the Hill, and remember their gift card special. Buy 50, get 20, and it's redeemable at all locations. Do it this week,
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
And again, the amazing part, you can get delivery for $6. That's just, to me, is bizarre.
And remember, with the gift cards, you can do it in person. You can also do it online.
Perfect. Avenue 45, Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Pier B Resort, Kohler Toyota, Kohler Hyundai, Comfort Systems. Thank you, Comfort Systems. You're at my house right now. Taking care of something that the cooks need taken care of. Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, Arola Architecture Studio, and our next guest.
Our next guest is Dave Hoops of Hoops Brewing, and Hoops Brewing has some gift card specials as well. It's that time of year. At Hoops, get a free $25 gift card for every $100 in gift cards purchased, and same can be said for every $50 in gift cards purchased, you get a free $10. So Dave's already said, shoppers, be resourceful. Do that 100, do that 50. Keep the bonus card for yourself.
100%.
I will tell you this. Anybody looking for last-minute gift ideas for me, Dave Hoops will argue I don't need them, but a Hoops gift card, I'll take it, certainly. So on the road with Dave Hoops, en route to the cities for the big game today. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. Happy post-Thanksgiving wishes to you both and your families.
And to you as well. This is one of my favorite weekends of the year because Thanksgiving is just fun. It's food, family, and football, three things I can always get behind. Plus, it's the start of the high school hockey season on the boys' side. That's fun, too. So this is a great weekend, and it sounds like you guys are going to enjoy it today.
Yeah, it's wonderful. You know, as Dave mentioned, he didn't mention that they don't make a bowl game if they don't win today.
That's correct. Well, they do. We'll just Badgers, 2,000 flushes will be the bowl game that the Gophers make if they lose today.
Yeah, Badgers are already in. So there might be more motivation on the Gophers side. And we've got, of course, Finn Hoops going. There's the Badger, and we've got Anna Richards, his lady, who's a Gopher, and families. So from here, I will be racing downtown to get on with that.
All right, so my curiosity is, where are you on this? You've got a son who's cheering for Big Red today, and you've got a tie in your vehicle, it sounded like, with one of each. You get to be the vice president and break the tie. Where do you lie in this one?
Well, until May of this year, I'm a Badgers fan, and then I won't care anymore. So right now, I'd still root for the Badgers. Although I do I always root for Gophers sports except hockey. Sorry, Dave. So today I'm kind of rooting quietly for the Gophers. I don't share that attitude about the Ducks because I was a fan well before Daisy Hoop was born.
Right.
So I'll be a Ducks fan forever.
I was going to say, one's today, elongated.
Yeah.
Can I say we should be thankful for Dave because this is great?
Yeah, well, today it's go Gophers and make a nice, bowl game to watch later. That's my motivation.
I think that's the clincher for anybody who's going to be on the fence with this, which is not me. It's always Minnesota over Wisconsin, pretty much except for college men's hockey, because I don't care if either of those teams ever win a game, Minnesota or Wisconsin. But when it comes to needing it for a bowl, the Gophers really, really need this one.
Well, and how about this? If they don't make a bowl, the stupid college football rules, that whole team might hit the portal if they don't make a bowl.
Well, that, or there's still a route to a bowl because 5 and 7 teams might be able to do it.
Right.
Don't forget, you just get invited
before bowl.
Right. You just get invited. They don't always accept bowl invites. Somebody 5 and 7 could get there. I hope the Gophers don't have to worry about that.
And I hope they don't accept it if they are.
Absolutely. So hopefully a good time today. I would say for late November, weather-wise, you're going to be chilly, but we've had Thanksgiving weekends that have been a lot worse than this in Mother Nature's eyes. Wouldn't you say, Dave Hoops?
Oh, yeah. We're dressed for it. It's not going to be a problem. And it's kind of fun because we're going to pregame down in Dinkytown with all the college kids, which should be interesting. Yeah, good stuff.
Should be a fun day. My niece is a senior on the dance team, so she is partaking in her last home football game. So big moment for my family as well. Big moments down at the brewery because we've talked for weeks now because for one beer that I love, Cherry Ale, the countdown's still going. December 9th is the big day for that. But otherwise, you had a couple of big ones out, and I went down Wednesday night and partook in each of them. Cranfest is delicious, and I tried the blueberry pale ale. That was very good as well. You've got the goods when it comes to holiday beers, don't you?
Oh, we sure do. And, you know, what was great last night, because I have a policy that is Thanksgiving evening, the Christmas decorations are up at home and at work. And we had a great night last night of folks coming in after their meals, and it's beautiful in there. And then, of course, today in an hour, we start the Makers Markets with all the great beer and the festivities, and it's just beginning to look a lot like Christmas kind of a deal.
Well,
Right
it
next
is,
to
because
Beverly,
if you
of course.
can believe it, Christmas is 1 month from today. Today is the 25th of November, and you talked about the decor both at home and at work. I do have to say, there were people when I was in there Wednesday night taking photos of your Christmas trees in the brewery. You've got a couple of them, and they are really a sight to behold. They are gorgeous.
Yeah, the folks over there at the farmers market, the Hofbauers, which they're legends in Christmasville, and they take care of me every year, and I can't say enough great things about them and their trees.
Wholeheartedly agree. It's quite the ambiance at Hoops Brewing. Not only great beer, but a great festive holiday atmosphere as well.
Well, and I just had to text Erin to bring Grandma down to Hoops for the Makers Market today then, because she will like the Christmas and should love the idea for market.
Well, let's not forget, we've been giving extra love to our sponsors today because the holiday season does that. Well, this is Small Business Saturday as well.
Absolutely.
It's the perfect day to support everybody locally. Hoops Brewing is a staple in our community, it's a staple on our show, and the staple in his segment is Dave Cook's Great Questions.
All right, Dave, this is one I've been wanting to talk to you about for a while. Jim Harbaugh. What makes a great college coach versus what makes a great pro coach, and how did Jim Harbaugh become the head coach that can do both? He had your guy, your team, and now he's in Go Blue. So he's been successful. He's a little weird. What makes the guy who can be successful at both?
Well, can I interject? Apparently, to be successful at Michigan, he cheats, but I digress. Go ahead,
Could
Dave.
he
Hoops.
have in San Francisco?
It's a really good question, Dave, and obviously he's got an intellect higher than many, and he's got a pedigree that brings him to his point in coaching, and he's a beauty. But honestly, it's Pete Carroll. That's my benchmark for a great college coach and a great pro coach, and just a great guy who everybody loves. And yeah, they got spanked on Thursday, but he's a beauty. And I think and he's also an old man who looks like he's 50. Good living, good friends, good attitude, and just unbelievable coaching ability without necessarily having to cheat or at least get caught at it.
That's what I'm going to ask Brian about right now. So Harbaugh cheated in college. You know who else cheated in college?
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll got stuff erased from USC. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe in college you got to be a guy who thinks beyond the rules so you can go coach well in the pros.
Well, I was going to say, is it just a matter of it's only cheating if you get caught? I mean, to be a good college coach, do you have to know the ultimate bending of the rules until somebody finds it out? Because let's face it, if you look at Gopher men's basketball win and loss records, Clem Haskins is really good. If you look at all the things that the NCAA wiped away, it's the Clem Haskins era in general. Now, I know you're asking about football, but it's interesting to me because I think those two things, now I'm not saying that college football coaches are going to make the jump and be better, but I think those two things are getting closer together because I think to be a good college coach, you have to have the right balance between authoritative enough, but also relatable enough. And you just said in our thankful segment that you're thankful for Kevin O'Connell. And I think you've got both of those. I don't think there's a question of who runs the ship for the Minnesota Vikings. But at the same time, we've talked about when you watch Kevin O'Connell mic'd up or you watch Kevin O'Connell get into the games, he's not that far removed from his playing days, although they didn't go very far. He's very relatable to today's generation as well.
So the old NASCAR saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? I wonder if the fact that Harbaugh's willing to do whatever and push the boundaries translates to the NFL because his players know that he's willing to do whatever to win.
Well, and why did Nick Saban not? Because Nick Saban is the college football genius. Nick Saban in the NFL was a laughingstock.
So, Dave, here's the next question. I did a career fair the other day, and I was talking to a young man who wasn't really interested in anything there. He said he wanted to become a brewer. So my question for you, and I've asked you what it takes to be a successful brewer in the past. I want to know, what's the first sign as somebody who might train a brewer that maybe they should look for something else?
And not be a brewer?
Yes.
Is that the question?
Yes.
And And basically, an aversion to extremely hard work would be the number one thing to consider something else. But also, if you don't like science and you're not interested, and everybody likes the art of brewing because the creativity runs the juices. But I had a hard time learning all the stuff I didn't know, chemistry and microbiology and such. You need that, and you really have to like cleaning stuff. Otherwise, don't go there.
All right, so I don't really get to contribute an answer to that because I have no idea what it takes to be a brewer, but the only thing I could say would be maybe a detriment to the idea is if he actually meant he wanted to play baseball in Milwaukee. Go ahead.
Well, you could clean stuff there. So my last question, and it kind of leads into the very first thing Brian said. If I'm looking for a gift and I come down to Hoops, what are some of the things that are there that I could use as a Christmas gift?
Oh, thanks for asking. We've got these really cool new zip-up sweatshirts. I have trouble with sweatshirts and flannels because they have to be awesome and ballistic, and like Patagonia or some big name like that or Duluth Trading won't sell in bulk for us to sell. So we really source out really cool high-end stuff. We also, of course, have a whole bunch of trinkets. We're even selling salsa and jelly from the cherry supplier that provides said cherries for $12.25. Yep. And we've got hats, of course, in abundance. We've got scarves. We've got UMD, rugs, shawls, I guess, whatever, to wear over your legs at the games. We've got a lot, plenty. Of course, Hydro Flask to spare that you can put beer in. I'll just stop now.
All right, Brian, what would you buy there to give?
I was going to say don't stop because the amount of merch and the amount of ideas that Hoops Brewing has for merchandise is just incredible. And I still need to get my hooded sweatshirt. Dave, I've been talking to Jen about, the right time of year, I'm going to come back and get one, and I need to do that. One of my favorite T-shirts is my Hoops Brewing T-shirt that right on the back of it, not the center of the back, but just below like the neck where everybody can see it unless you've got very long hair. The back of the T-shirt says you need a beer, and that's my favorite shirt that I have. I think that's what I would give, although you can't go wrong with the gift cards, and that usually goes against what shopping means to most people because if you've ever seen Jim Gaffigan do stand-up comedy, one of his favorite bits of mine is when you give somebody a gift card, he goes, "Hey, thanks, you got me an errand," because somebody has to go and, basically buy things for themselves. But I'll tell you this, if you get a Hoops Brewing gift card, that errand is worth it because the beer is second to none and then the experience. I just love hanging out there. Judge me accordingly.
Oh, thanks, Brian. We've put a lot of energy into being a community hang center, a place that everybody's welcome from age 0 to age 100 plus.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because, hockey season is here and youth tournaments are going to start to shell out in droves. And it always fascinates me that, you think of a brewery and you think of 21 plus for obvious reasons. But I've walked in on a Saturday afternoon after doing a game of some kind and the brewery's hopping. And a lot of them are way under 21. Kids are having a blast there too, aren't they?
Best root beer in town.
There you go.
100%. And we're filling up. For many, many years, I was down here in the cities doing tournaments and meeting people and hanging out with other parents. And over the years, it became known that we were embracing the whole experience. And yes, go ahead, bring your kids in. Yes, hang out as a group of parents. And yes, you will be embraced and taken care of. And it's working for us. And it's really what we believe in.
No question about that. Now, you've given us a litany of ideas over the segment after segment after segment you've done with us for several years. I have one idea for you. You know how pro sports teams and even some college sports teams have season ticket waiting lists? I think you need to do that for Cherry Ale. You've given us all the date that it comes out of December 9th. I think we need to put our names down to be like, hey, I get it first because this stuff's going to go quick, isn't it?
It is. I would like to do a mug club, although I haven't found the right way to do it, and they're difficult. And that mug club would, of course, include like a crawler or a growler of cherry every year, guaranteed. And I'm working on a way to do it. But you have a great idea there, and we'll have plenty of it, but it won't be around much after the new year. So there's that. You're right about it.
Yeah, it is going to be a little different than the double batching last year. I think I was drinking cherry ale in March. I joked with your staff when I came down on Wednesday. I said, December 9th, about 4 o'clock, I'm going to come down and buy you guys out. I promise I won't, but I'll be tempted to. I know we covered a lot of it, but just touch on what is good down at the brewery again this weekend for Small Business Saturday.
Well, besides the makers markets, and there's going to be nice music during that time too of the holiday persuasion. But Blueberry Pale Ale is a big hit. We're coming out with Crystal Weissen and Smoked Hefeweizen, which is a really big fan favorite amongst a certain segment. That's all coming right now before the release of Cherry. And, of course, we're going to be all about the Vikings tomorrow and all about I want to predict that Dobbs gets more yards on the ground than Fields. And
well, don't forget, though, don't be all about them tomorrow because it's a Monday night game.
Oh, I can't remember what day it is either. I'm sorry, but you know what I'm saying.
This weekend does that. So you're predicting a victory. Yeah. One last prediction. Gophers or Badgers, who wins by how much?
I'm going to say a 31-28 Gophers victory, although I hope nobody's listening. Forget that I just said that. I hope lots of people are listening. But the people in the car, my in-laws, so to speak, are probably laughing right now.
There you go. I love it.
Go.
I'll tell you this. If the Gophers put up 31, my question will be how many defensive touchdowns did they score? Because that offense can't seem to find 31 in 2 weeks. But maybe the good luck charm will be Dave Hoops in attendance. Have a blast today, my friend. Thank you again.
Dave.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk with you next week. I appreciate it.
100%. That's our guy, Dave Hoops. We talk about thankfuls. He may headline that list for us. We're thankful to play buy or sell. We're going to do it when we come back. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
Back. We know a good buy when we see one. Northland Sports Page. Lots of people hopefully out making good buys today. Small Business Saturday. Love to see local businesses thrive. We've been a big part of it today. That's been half the show today.
It's been fun though because you're right. Our sponsors are local, and our sponsors should get a little extra love today on Local Business Saturday. And Dave and the folks at Hoops are pushing that with the Makers Market.
Well, not to mention without those sponsors, we don't have a show. And we've had one for over 6 years. We are the Northland Sports Page. We will talk a little sports for this segment. It's time to play buy or sell. Are you ready?
I am.
All right. If you're new to the game, first of all, where were you? Second of all, welcome. Here's how it works. I'm going to give a statement on each of the 4 major leagues. If you agree, you say buy and you tell me why. If you disagree, you say sell and you tell me why. Dave Cook has a couple of responsibilities. His piping hot takes per usual, but of course the order in which we play.
Well, we're going to kind of do the reverse of what we did earlier. So let's start with the Vikings.
All right, so we are starting with the NFL.
I'm terrible at that because I always say the opposite. Earlier.
I was going to say, by the way, the categories are each league, not necessarily the teams that we have in them.
Yes, let's start with the NFL, Brian.
But Dave Hoops will be proud of you because what he loves about Minnesota is we've got all these teams.
Yes.
He doesn't care if they lose. We've got them all. God bless them.
I'll work on this.
So with the NFL, Thanksgiving morning, the Packers beat the Lions. Because, as I like to put it, Detroited all over Thanksgiving. They haven't won on Thanksgiving Day in forever. Now, for Vikings fans, because they're tied into this, that's supposed to be good news because you're chasing Detroit in the division. So for them to lose is not necessarily a bad thing. But there is this Green Bay Packer team kind of rising from the dead. And if there's one thing that Vikings fans don't like, it's Green Bay having hope because they're used to winning. So buy or sell, Detroit losing Thursday as a Vikings fan was a good thing.
Sell, because I was sitting there with my brother-in-law watching this game, and he's going, "Oh, thank goodness Green Bay won." And I'm like, I don't think I can say that. And Detroit's been bad for a long time, so the fact that they go ahead and win is a good thing. And when you said Vikings fans don't want to see the ghost of Green Bay past, I'm probably one of those guys. So I don't think it was a good thing. I'm selling that one, Brian.
I'm 100% with you because I'm one of those as well that saying, boy, I hope Green Bay wins or thank goodness they won is a very awkward kind of blasphemous statement for me. Now, I will admit to doing it at the deck to know my audience because there were people that came in Packer T-shirts or Packer hats, and I went, hey, big day for your squad, trying to be the nice guy on Thanksgiving. And in my head, I'm going, what did you just say?
And why are you wearing that?
Right. But at the same time, I think the reality is this Vikings team is not catching Detroit.
Right.
Now, maybe that Denver game kind of put that nail in that coffin because had they beaten a Broncos team that is better but not very good, they would have had a chance because you'd be that much closer in the standings and you've still got Detroit twice. You still have Detroit twice, but you've got to beat them both and get help. the help you got from the Packers isn't necessarily hope at all.
Yeah, not at all. Although, if Green Bay put something on tape that nobody quite noticed about what Detroit does,
that is a blueprint of how to beat the Honolulu Blue.
Maybe you get that blueprint, and like you said, the Vikings got them twice.
It will be interesting because Green Bay in the playoffs nauseates me, and it's an idea. Dave Sinekin, big surprise, was telling us all how it's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm. And if they're there, it means Jordan Love took a step. And we don't want that. We want Packer fans to feel the pain of not good quarterbacking.
Of not having a quarterback.
But if he takes the step, we're just going to throw our hands in the air and say, here we go again.
Well, and that's the question, too, because Detroited, like I said, they fell short of expectations as soon as they got them. That can't be new for any seasoned Lions fan. Now, personnel-wise, this Detroit group isn't used to winning. Personnel-wise, this Green Bay group, you can argue, isn't used to winning either. The difference is the fan bases are used to very different life. Yeah. Green Bay fans lap of luxury, especially at the quarterback position. Detroit, woe is me, that's more woeful than the Vikings. Is that really what concerns us? The Green Bay Packers as a team don't really know how to win. Their fans do. Is it the fact that their fans are rising from the dead too?
No, but Green Bay has enough players left from when they were okay and in the playoffs because they were Green Bay that they do have guys that win. Frankly, what you said about Detroit is true. You know who they need? They need Mike Conley, except the football guy, to come in, whoever football Mike Conley is,
right,
to come in and say, guys, we're a good basketball team, football team in this case. Let's just play our game.
Yeah, unfortunately for Detroit fans, they're thinking they did play their game. That's what they do every Thanksgiving. Another disappointing Thursday for the Lions fans. All right, 1 down, 3 to go.
Yep, we're going to go Twins. We're going to go Major Leagues.
All right, so Major League Baseball, because this involves a former Twin. Now, the latest Hall of Fame ballot is out. And if you want my honest opinion, Major League Baseball might be better served to take nobody this year. So maybe that gives my opinion away.
Beltre belongs.
Okay. But buy or sell, because Mr. Mauer's going to be the subject of debate, buy or sell that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
There's no debate. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. We were texting back and forth about this before. Thurman Munson is not a Hall of Famer. His batting average isn't as good as Joe Mauer's.
Right.
But he was Rookie of the Year. He has World Series. He was considered the best catcher of his time. He died early, so they played almost the same amount of time as catcher. Right. And he was a New York Yankee. Joe Mauer is going to be a Hall of Famer, but let's just hold the reins. I was going to say Harold Baines took care of that suspense. Let's hold the reins back on first ballot. And I will say this until I pass. Jorge Posada gets screwed because he never played DH, and so he didn't just get to stack additional offensive numbers because people say bad catcher. Well, you know what? Bad catcher beats DH who couldn't play a position, right? Shouldn't it?
If you factor in the number of games somebody played at catcher, AJ Pierzynski deserves a look. Now, he's not a Hall of Famer at all, but if you look at number of games behind the plate, he was a bad catcher, but he did fine back there for a long time.
Jorge Posada has all these rings and has very good numbers, but he was considered a mediocre catcher, and all these guys that were DHs that couldn't play the field are in the HOF because they got hit. Jorge Posada gets screwed because he continued to play catcher.
Well, the thing that baffles me, because I've seen this all over social media, and it's from all the bobos that think Joe Mauer is going to be in a few months, and maybe he will. You know, we don't know what the vote's going to be like. If I had a vote, it's a no for Joe Mauer on ballot number 1. It's a yes for Hall of Fame in some point of his career. But I've seen the breakdown of Yadier Molina versus Joe Mauer and all these categories that Joe Mauer is supposedly superior in. But you're comparing 920 games to upwards of 2,000. So if you're going to do it that unfairly by position, why not compare Craig Biggio with Joe Mauer? Craig Biggio caught like 550, 580 games in his career behind the plate. Nobody thinks of him as a catcher, but he put up great numbers, and he caught half as much as Joe. That's what you're doing with Molina versus Joe.
Yeah, that's a bad comparison.
It is.
Yadier Molina is also considered one of the greatest defensive catchers of all time. And so, yeah, he played twice as long, and he was a better catcher. Now he's not as good a hitter-catcher, but he wasn't a liability there either.
So if you're going to compare
he's
Biggio,
a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Correct. So if you're going to compare Biggio, who's in already, to Mauer, you're going to say, well, how come Joe Mauer didn't steal 300 bases in his career? Because Biggio did, but Biggio caught for a blink. But in the grand scheme, so did Joe compared to Molina.
And Joe's game wasn't speed.
Right.
And so
but that's what I'm saying. It's blasphemous because you're not apples to apples. You're just taking a position and comparing them that way.
I heard something really interesting. Is Joe Mauer the position player of Sandy Koufax? Because Sandy Koufax was
really good, but don't blink.
The best pitcher for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe not even that long. And Joe Mauer was the best catcher maybe of all time for 3 years. And so is he a Hall of Famer? Yes. Does he belong in the same breath with Adrian Beltre for this one? No, he does not.
So there's zero question he gets in, but it shouldn't be on ballot 1. And he was great, but it was very short.
Correct. He is a Hall of Famer. He is. If he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, we're going to have the Harold Baines conversation about Joe Mauer.
He did things as a catcher that nobody's done. And if he had remained a catcher for the whole career, the dip would have been understandable as well.
Absolutely. If he was this is my whole Jorge Posada argument, right? Because he played so long at catcher, his numbers, and considered a bad catcher, he isn't going to get in. If Joe played catcher and had the offensive fall that he had, we would say, yeah, he was a great catcher for a few years, but man, he was not a good catcher at the end, blah, 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 blah. And maybe he's a guy that gets in the 7th ballot rather than the guy who we saw play catcher as a great catcher, and then he had to shift because of an injury, right? And so he's a Hall of Famer. He's just not, I pray he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I'm with you. So 2 down, 2 to go. Where are we going?
We are going to go with the NHL. Do you see that?
All right.
I got NHL, didn't say Wild.
All right. So the NHL, we are looking at a bad Wild team right now. We are looking at a terrible Wild team, to be honest with you. Now, they're losing close games or they're losing in overtime, which the NHL somehow rewards you for losing in overtime. The Timberwolves for a long time were really bad. You said tongue-in-cheek earlier today, 30 out of 35 seasons have basically been bad. I remember some of those horrific seasons where the Timberwolves marketing department took it upon themselves to basically promote the opponents. And that's why people came out to watch, because you could see Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron, etc. And oh, by the way, the Timberwolves are playing too. Are the Minnesota Wild going to reach that point where the X is going to fill up, but not to watch us?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a year that is just not the right year, but I think it's a year. I don't think this is a trend. I don't think this is a pattern. I mean, look at the guys who aren't producing this year. Here's the thing. This year might cost Dean Evison his job.
Yeah.
That's
the one I wanted to give you, that buy or sell, he's there in March. But
buy or sell, he's there December or January 1st.
Right.
But
if he's Mike Yo, that's right around when he has his tirade, and we'll see what happens.
Right, and is that too far away?
Yeah.
But, I mean, next year they're going to have a different goalie, and if they're bad, they'll have that different goalie this year, so he'll get some playing time. You know, they're going to have to cycle some players through, which will help when their money gets alleviated, when the money problem gets alleviated. Right. So I think this is a blip. I don't think this is a trend. If it's a trend, then yes, they're going to. Logan Cooley's coming back with the Arizona Cardinals or Arizona, whatever they are.
They're the Coyotes. Yes. I think you're right. I don't think the marketing department will ever take that route, because in this state they shouldn't have to. I mean, I still think the unconditional love is a thing. Now, I'll tell you this: just because the marketing department doesn't do it doesn't mean that fans won't do it as well. Here's what I wish, though, because this will be Brian Prudhomme and Dave Cook doing the thing they do every show on the Northland Sports page, is I wish that fans would like both sports enough to realize that when the Wild aren't very good, the Wolves are. And whether it's, flipping your TV channel or flipping sides of the cities to go to an arena, that you'd support the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I've been successful with one person. My brother-in-law was watching the Timberwolves the other day, and he said, yeah, these guys are pretty good. 2 weeks ago, he said, I haven't watched Timberwolves in about 10 years. And so we've got a guy, and so if we have one, I think other people should give him a try.
I think it must be something with brothers-in-law, because I did the same thing. My brother-in-law has Wild season tickets and said I will not be renewing, which I get it, but part of me says, well, wait till the purse strings are different and you might enjoy having them again. But he said, I just normally don't watch the Timberwolves, but I started because of you. It was one of those, I learned it by watching you, and I hope he's enjoying it now, last night notwithstanding.
Absolutely. So
Speaking of the Wolves, they're in the NBA. We close with that one.
Let's close with the NBA, Brian.
And it is with the Wolves, and we really got to get going. We're behind schedule by a good chunk.
Oh, sorry, Ted.
But for the NBA, I probably opened Pandora's box here, so it's a bad one to go last. But the Timberwolves are better than expected, and we expected pretty good. Karl Anthony Towns has been a problem for a couple of years. He's not right now. Buy or sell, do we owe Cat an apology?
Sort of. The difference is that Cat is not the number one player. Remember what we said about Wiggins? Is when you took him out of being the dog and you put him as the fourth option, he turned out to be pretty good. Now that Cat can just be the drink and not the straw, I think he's been pretty good. There's pressures off him.
I wrestled with this because part of me thought, well, no, because 2 weeks of good games doesn't compensate for 2 years of, my gosh, you're a headache to watch. But then I thought about, well, we've all been told, and to some extent we know, that in his personal life he's been through hell and back.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just recovered from that and gets to just be a basketball player. And I don't mean that derogatory, just a basketball player, but gets to actually focus on his job. And he's that much better at it. I don't know if we owe him an apology, but I think we can be a lot less rushed to get him out of town.
I agree with that, Brian. And I think having Conley and Gobert, who are professionals, pull him aside and saying, hey, you're acting like an 8-year-old, probably carries a little bit more weight.
Right. So we talked about historic thankfuls earlier. When we talked about the Wild, what I wanted to say was, thank you for being an alternative to the Timberwolves for so many horrific winters when the Timberwolves were nothing. The roles are reversed.
They are.
Let's enjoy it for the moment.
Absolutely.
We say goodbye a little bit late to hour number 1. Hour 2 is next. Ted Keefe of Rails TV. We'll be simulcasting with them today. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.